Hey, so this is me, Arian again. This is the same night I'm doing the other video, obviously. Um, I'm gonna do like a little history of my life, I guess, testimony, so to speak. I don't really have that long of testimony with being born again. Uh, I do have a large testimony of, my battle with deciding to serve God or not to serve God. And, it's kind of throughout my life, even many points when I didn't know that's what was going on. So I'll just kind of start away. Uh, I've been in Alcoholics Anonymous in the past, so I've got some experience with giving my life story. It shouldn't be that difficult. It's going to be different because back then I would relate, I would try to relate how I was an alcoholic, and try to relate to people that were in the rooms. Whereas now it's like some of those details don't really matter. Some of the war stories, so to speak, about my partying days or my days living in sin. So I'll have to maybe cut some of the details out, but I definitely want to get the gist of, the understanding of where I come from, how the life that I was coming from before coming to Christ and to the Father in heaven, which in my understanding are not the exact same entity. And also my understanding is that there is not a Trinity. The Son is part of the Father, is of the Father. He is to be praised. Revelation talks about the Father, the glory of the Father on his throne, and that there's no one worthy to take the scroll or the keys or something. And then finally the Lamb comes along, right? And then everybody praises and worships the Lamb. And, this is describing two very distinct, different entities. And, we'll get more into that at some point in time. But I guess let me just start with my testimony first before I scare anyone away. Give me 2 seconds as I'm cooking rice and beans. So I'm not like vegan or anything. I'm just cooking rice and beans tonight. So I don't have a lot of food at the moment. But let me go turn the heat down. I'll be literally 10 seconds. Okay, hope that was 10 seconds. I got them both on low now. Um, so, you know, I come from a pretty privileged family, I guess. I don't believe in white privilege or, anything like that. I believe, in the U.S., a lot of people have to work for what they have. We are, in a slave system. Like, we're all slaves. This is just a fact, right? There is, there is some kind of I didn't want to get too deep into conspiracy, but to my understanding, there's some kind of like cabal type deal that runs the world, and they are Luciferian. They worship the devil, and they do heinous, unspeakable things. Like unspeakable, detestable things, to where it enrages me so much that I wish that I could take vengeance out on them, but I know that God will do that through Jesus Christ on the second coming, and during God's wrath. So it's not my place, right? From what I understand is I'm not too big on covenant theology or uh, dispensationalism, right? On either one, like particularly, like I don't pick one. I think they both have their, valid points. But my understanding is we're in the grace period, and we're supposed to follow Christ, and we're supposed to turn the other cheek, and we're supposed to store up our treasures in heaven. So, with that being said, um, yeah, back to back to my story. So, in the beginning, I come from a good family, half Greek, half Scottish, and I always had like a big family on both sides. And then my parents got divorced, when I was young, when I was 8. And when I was 8, I had like a pretty good childhood. My aunt raised me during the day, and my parents were good parents. My dad probably spoiled me a little bit too much, and I was probably too much of a mama's boy. And I got what I wanted most of the time, and my aunt spoiled me, and she treated me like I was a prince. It's just a fact. So I was definitely spoiled. I didn't really learn how to earn my worth, so to speak. And later points in time that ended up affecting me badly. But So, moving on, my parents got divorced when I was 8. Before that, we went to the Greek Orthodox Church. I don't think it was every weekend. I think it was definitely for the pagan holidays, Easter and Christmas times and Thanksgiving, or whenever they'd have, services, for stuff like that for those holidays. And then I think we also did go, to services here and there because I remember trying to learn Greek when I was younger, and I learned the Greek alphabet and some other stuff. And my parents got divorced, and I went like a few times more with my dad, and then my dad just stopped going, and I wasn't really interested in it either. At that point in time, I was very young, and you know, moving forward, when I was 8, my parents used to fight a lot. Never physical, really. Oh, I mean, really, never physical. I think there was one time he like threw something, and it, like missed her by a long shot, and that was like the closest thing to physicality it ever got. But there was a lot of screaming and yelling, a lot of cussing and stuff like that. So, it didn't sit right with me, and like I loved my dad to death when I was younger the whole time. And then when my mother and him split, I ended up resenting my father because of it. I guess I blamed him for the thing, probably because I was mama's boy and she had me all the time. And, I think it had something to do with that. But moving past that, I spent 6 minutes talking about nothing was what it feels like. So, in middle school, I never really fit in. I was always bullied when I was younger from like 8 to like 12. I was like super cool in elementary school. I had all the friends. I had everything going for me. And I don't know, I just was like the most popular elementary school kid. And then, after the 5th grade, I went into middle school and I got bullied by the neighborhood kids. Actually, that's not true. In elementary school, I had a lot of friends, but there was someone that had an abusive father that lived in my neighborhood, and he used to, torment me all the time. He'd take like a lighter with like insect spray and like, try to put a flamethrower in my face or, punch me all the time or, whatever, push me down, kick me, stuff like that, which I can't blame him. I forgive him now. And, he had some things come to him for his behavior, not at a young age, but at, later on in life when he could have repented and turned from his wicked ways, and he didn't. And, maybe one day when I'm more capable, I would love to go help him because I see him and he's in torment now. And it's really sad to me to see that, even knowing that this is someone who used to punish me a lot when I was younger. He didn't know any better, and it's just sad to see. So, yeah, so I got a history of being bullied, then at 12 in middle school time, I started riding bikes. My parents were split up, so I was running around all day unsupervised, on the bike and, spitting on cars and just doing little mischief stuff, and then the kids I was hanging out with were all like bigger than me. Uh, and I was a runt really until I was like 17, I guess. So, I just got picked on a lot, physically, mentally, all the time. And then I still, I had a resentment towards my father. So like I couldn't open up to him. And then, he got really hurt over the matter. So really, for many years, it's hard to explain the difference that I've seen in him the past like 8 years compared to before. He's always been a decent guy. I mean, really, and he's always treated me very, very fairly. And I've not honored him pretty much my whole life. And I've given him a lot of disrespect, and I've butted heads with him a lot, especially when it wasn't necessary. And, I'm sorry for that. And I hope one day he can forgive me. He might already forgive me. I don't know. But moving on, so the bullying thing, and then after that, I had my time where I would take it out on other students in public school and stuff. I did go to public school my whole life. I never went to private. Actually, in 6th grade, I went to private school, and that year in 6th grade, I was bullied more than anything else because it was a private school where kids had been going since 5 years old or whatever. So they all knew everyone in the school. And me coming in at 6th grade, I was the new kid. And I just, I made some mistakes in the first couple of weeks, and then I was tormented for it the whole year. Even though I did end up making friends, I just pretty much, got the short end of the stick that whole time. And, then in high school, things started kind of looking up for me. I started, in 9th grade, I started making friends, and it felt good. I started like doing things the cool kids did, like going to the movies and, I don't know, trying to talk to girls and stuff like that. I was always interested in girls indefinitely, and I just was always shy. And I didn't really hit puberty till late either, so I think that might have had something to do with it. But um, in 10th grade is like when things started really happening, because in ninth, I had gotten into drinking and stuff like that and smoking pot like here and there, like maybe a couple times in middle school. Ironically, my father told me when I was like 12 or 13 that he's going to drug test me every month because my brother was like some mushroom addict that used to go steal mushrooms from the cow field and trip balls, and he had a lot of problems in school and with partying and stuff like that. So to prevent that, my father was going to drug test me. And the funny thing was, I had smoked pot for the first time in my life, like either that day, I think it was that day. It might have been the day before, but I'm pretty sure it was that day. So I'm listening to all this, and I'm like, I'm about to crap myself. And he says, but just to be safe, I'm going to do it in a month from now, because if you have ever done anything wrong, I don't want to know about it. So I'm going to give you enough time to, clean your system and everything like that. And I was just like, whew. Anyways, in high school in 10th grade is when it really started like popping off for me. I was running around unsupervised. I started hanging out with more or less hoodlums, and I started partying all the time, right? Like the summer of 10th grade, especially, right? Like I started partying in 10th grade, but the summer of 10th grade, I remember going to keg parties until, you know, I'd go out at 10 p.m. on a weeknight. This wasn't school night, so it was summer, but I'd go out at 10 p.m. on a weeknight, wouldn't come home till 8 in the morning, and we would have been partying that whole time. And I'd just come home at 8 in the morning to act like, my mom didn't know that I was up all night. I just was coming home in the morning. And there was other times where, sneaking out and coming home late and getting in trouble and all sorts of that, but she was a single mother, and it wasn't like she could really discipline me, because I had made the decision at 15 that instead of my parents doing some kind of court thing, that I didn't want to do this week to week back and forth between them. So I wanted to stay at my mother's because, she spoiled me more. I can manipulate her more, basically, is what it comes down to. At that time, I don't think that's what I was necessarily thinking. I just thought that she was nicer and that's who I want to be with. But um, so I'm gonna kind of skip past some of this stuff. Let me just like sum it up for you guys. I'm 27 now, by the way. So I'm about to turn 28, which I don't celebrate birthdays, so please don't wish me a happy birthday. Um, so like in high school, I was like getting into illegal activities, profiting on them, and I don't know how much I want to go into, right? But at the same time, like this is just it's the truth, and if I am punished for it, then so be it. It's like it's up to God. It's not in my hands. It's like it's literally in God's hands. If I have to go to prison, then there's going to be a reason for it. And maybe if I can save one person when I'm in prison, then it'll be worth it. If I have to go to prison for years for past activities. So I was selling things and making profits that I shouldn't have, and there were things that I'd turn a blind eye to, like stuff that I could insinuate was most likely stolen, right? Like I could kind of get the vibe and know that this was the deal, and then that, and then I would sell merchandise like that, and make a small profit. And I'm talking like as a minor, like 16 years old, and there's other times all throughout my life where I was a smoker, of medicinal substances, and I would buy those in smaller quantities usually, but then they became larger quantities, and I had a lot of friends that were into that too. So enough said on that. And then also there was times where it was even more serious stuff that I was getting into. Um, I had used to brag that by 17 I had done, oh man, I don't even remember the number, but I don't know if it was 8 or 11 different drugs or something like that. But I was like, checking off all the hard drugs, and I was proud at the time, which is really scary and sad, but it's just the way that it was back then. And it's I was looking at these idols, these rappers and these sports stars, and I had all these idols that I thought they, little did I know that they were leading me astray, and most of them had literally sold their soul. I did not know that at the time, obviously. So, another thing too that I was doing around that time is I would even sneak into the dog track and I would gamble because in my state we have the most dog tracks in the United States, which is where I live, and they had poker rooms there. So because I had started playing poker, for like pennies or a few dollars at some point when I was younger with friends and stuff like that, uh, I had gotten good. I was the one that was winning more than most. There was maybe three of us out of 15 or so, three or four of us out of 15 that were winning more often than others. And I took my talents to the card room, even though I wasn't allowed to be in there, right? They couldn't punish me when they ended up finding out because it's really on their end. They're supposed to card you and they're supposed to have security for that stuff. So they ended up kicking me out and I didn't go back until I was 18, even though I was winning and stuff like that. And then when I was winning, I took the money from my other activities, which were never like constant. They were really on and off. It'd be like I'd have a big come up, so to speak, which is the terms we used to use. I'd have a big come up and then I'd, go start gambling and I'd be on a big gambling binge for a while because I'd win at gambling. I had no discipline though, so that was the problem. So I'd start winning and then I'd start playing loose and stuff like that. So I have a really long history with poker. It was like I used to skip school, especially senior year. I'd skip school. I don't even know how I graduated. I had so many unexcused absences. It's like ridiculous. I do not know. I was the student who would always get, A's on the test on the subjects I was good at, like English or math. I wasn't great at English because it took more studying, but I'd get B pluses or A minuses in English, and I'd get A's or A pluses in, simpler math classes. And the harder ones, when I started taking like calc and stuff like that, I'd be like, oh, I'm about to graduate. I can just transfer out of this class to an easier one and just fly by and skip all my classes. So I do stuff like that. Even science, I was never great at science, but I like science and, physics, especially physics was about equations. But my whole history in school and my standardized testing, I was always, always, always high on the charts for, 90th, 96th percentile, whatever it was. I was always high for the kids in the state, and I would never study. I had no discipline. I wouldn't do the projects. I wouldn't do homework. All I would do is I'd be depressed all day in my room, and I'd play video games all day. I mean, I'm talking 10 hours a day. And then I'd even stay up sometimes till 4 in the morning playing video games at sometimes. And, those are the nights that my mom didn't come in and rip my computer cord out of my, whatever, or come in there and, freak out. So, some nights I'd stay up till 4 in the morning and I'd have to be waking up at 7 a.m. for school. And I'm talking 12 years old in middle school, 11 years old even, maybe not in sixth grade, but like after 12 years old and up, all the way to 15 and, however long. And I don't know. I just was never a responsible kid. And it's probably because I, left my father's house and I tried not to have him raise me because I had a resentment towards him. But, so, that's pretty much sums up the whole thing. I became really popular, actually. I got a lot of friends. I was, one thing that was weird about me is like I always wanted, everyone was sleeping with each other, which I didn't understand at the time. I think I understand now. But everyone was sleeping each other from a young age. And it's really just abominable to me that the way these girls dress when they're younger. I mean, like I see it now. I don't know how a daughter can have his, I'm sorry. I don't know how a father can have his daughter who's 8 or 10 years old wear short shorts. And even the same thing, a girl that's 14 or 15 will be walking around with her father in these skimpy clothes. And it's just abominable to me. It's like, why do you not cover yourselves? It's for your husband at some point in time to see you like that, not to just show the world. It's just, we live in a satanic world. It's really, really corrupted and nobody understands it. It's just what we think is normal is not normal. It's satanic. What we think is normal is satanic. It's just how it is. So, anyways, where did I leave off? So yeah. So like, I didn't lose my virginity until I was 19, right? Because I always wanted a girlfriend that like like loved me or whatever, or like at least really really liked me, right? I didn't just want to like sleep with some girl. Like I had multiple opportunities to do that, and I even like got girls. I would always talk to girls. Whether it was by text or sometimes in person, walking them to class, stuff like that. Like I was always really interested in, and I had really high standards for girls too. That was the other thing, which I think nowadays, I think I might understand what that's about, but I won't get into that stuff right here. So yeah, I just like, I got my heart crushed, by a few of these girls in high school, and they're just looking for sex, and I was looking for something more, and because of that, I got too attached and became clingy and got my heart crushed, and they would go hook up with another guy. So, when I was 19, I was finally ready to just not be like looked down upon by my so-called friends, so to speak, and uh, I ended up sleeping with like this girl. Like I ended up getting on drugs when I was 19. I'm kind of skipping the whole college thing. I got really good SAT scores without studying for them. I took Adderall, which I wasn't even prescribed to take, but I like took this amphetamine drug, and I just killed it on my SAT scores. I didn't kill it. I killed it for like my standards, right? Like I did not expect to do as well as I did on them. By like genius standards, like I didn't even compare to like what the super high scores was. I don't even remember what. I think I got like a 1260 on my math, which is like probably not even that good, but for me, like it was really, really good. So, or I'm sorry, 600 something. I don't remember, 600 something on my math and 590 on the read. I don't know. I forget. Anyways, moving on. So yeah, so I got into college. I didn't even know this until recently, but my parents actually had to get a recommendation from, I don't know if it was a politician or something like that, but it wasn't anyone like super high up, but it was someone that my dad had become friends with at some point in time. I don't know if it was some school board person or who it was or some lawyer. I don't know. I forget honestly, but I had to get a letter of recommendation from them. I don't know if they went to the school or what it was, but a lot of the colleges in my state, they were GPAs of like 3.12 higher, and because I skipped so much school and I just did so poorly in school without ever trying, I got like a 2.8 2.9 GPA without giving any effort, really. I mean, I gave minimal effort, but I always cut corners, and I ended up getting into a school that was really decent, and I flunked the whole semester partying, and when I came back for Christmas break, I mean, like I flunked every single class when I went to college. And I'm going to try to speed this up because this is, I don't know, we're making good time. We're 23 minutes in here, but let me check my rice really quick. I'll be 10 seconds. Okay, sorry. So I'll tell you guys what, I'm probably going to just do like maybe 5 or 10 more minutes, and then I'm going to do a part two because I should have been watching my food better. And I'm going to go attend to that now and eat, or maybe I'll just